Appiah's In My Father's House is an exploration on identity, culture, and race, prompting a re-examination of the ways in which South Africans, particularly intellectuals and everyday individuals, perceive the world. If we adopt his premises, we uncover intriguing prospects for fostering cultural growth within this divided society. The chapters in the book function as self-contained extended essays. The initial chapters delve into early Black American writers, such as Cromwell and Blyden, who constructed the notion of Africa as the ancestral home of a biologically and spiritually identifiable race. These chapters then progress to highlight how figures like Du Bois endeavored to counteract white racism through a constructive, at times Afrocentric, yet consistently essentialist defense of the Black race. This defense emphasized biological and cultural attributes. Appiah suggests that the Pan-Africanists responded to the racial discrimination they encountered by embracing the very racialism it presupposed. Following this, Appiah examines Afrocentric perspectives on Africa held by Africans themselves. He contends that such perspectives disregard the profound influence of the modern era on African intellectuals, as well as the genuine distinctiveness of the various historically evolved individual cultures in Africa. These cultures seldom coalesce into a unified whole, even within specific countries. Appiah terms the exclusively nativist viewpoint as purely nativist, and notes that it neglects the multifaceted power dynamics, while overlooking the diverse forms of individual and collective agency available to African individuals. Such a viewpoint, according to Appiah, diminishes both the accomplishments and potential of African literature. Appiah goes further to challenge the notion that what he labels Afrocentric particularism possesses an independent intellectual autonomy, apart from its interaction with its Eurocentric adversary. He argues that the trajectory of cultural nationalism in Africa has been to actualize the imagined identities imposed upon us by Europe. Instead of truly crafting a new narrative, Afrocentrism merely substitutes Caliban for Prospero in The Tempest. To Appiah, this is akin to exchanging roles without fundamentally altering the script. He distinguishes between mistakenly assuming that a European commentator on Africa holds an objective truth, disregarding their own background in analysis, and suggesting that a European critic lacks the legitimacy to critically analyze a work by an African author. The latter stance, in Appiah's perspective, delegitimizes any endeavor to provide an alternative interpretation of a work, including Marxist, feminist, or even individual viewpoints from a different era, especially for those intellectuals who possess a degree of skepticism toward the concept of progress and the modern trends we now commonly label as modernity. Appiah argues that writers hailing from Africa and beyond can gain valuable insights from each other. He posits that Western and African intellectuals, while grappling with the complexities of modernity, share common interests and concerns. 172. Nevertheless, he endeavors to position himself within a postmodern framework that acknowledges the fractured nature of identity, the multi-dimensional aspects of it, and the transformative impact of modern international communication. Essentially, he questions whether a contemporary African intellectual can possess a straightforward African identity, particularly one defined solely by their skin color, which in turn shapes their relationship with the contemporary global landscape. Appiah employs personal anecdotes as exemplifications, deliberately underlining his points. For him, Africa equates to his father's abode, with his father being a prominent Ghanaian lawyer and politician, a liberal critic of Nkrumah, a figure of diverse identities and values derived from various sources. The author himself embodies other identities, linking to the English intelligentsia through his maternal lineage and education, and to the United States, where he resides and teaches. Notably, his book likely carried an intent to challenge the prevalent Afrocentric narrative among African American nationalist-oriented intellectuals in the United States. Additionally, Appiah holds a unique tie to an older, coherent, and distinct African culture through his status as the nephew of the Queen of Asante, remarkably named Victoria. This specific connection exerts a compelling influence on him. The book culminates with a symbolically charged clash involving his father's funeral, an event that engenders division within his family and draws in some of Ghana's most prominent figures, including Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings, the head of state. Appiah offers insightful commentary on the works of African writers and philosophers, particularly those from West Africa. His exploration includes two captivating chapters that delve into the distinction between philosophy and oral religious and cosmological wisdom in Africa. He reflects on the role of rationality and literacy, the interplay between tradition, both African and beyond, and modern thought. A humorous account follows, critiquing a recent New York exhibition on primitive art, which, in ways reminiscent of Edward Said's Orientalism, appropriates Africa. Curiously, though Appiah doesn't directly address Said's work, he indirectly touches on the concept of the African as the other. He discusses the danger and allure for African writers to become generators of otherness in a cultural landscape where power is starkly unequal. Appiah holds that Africans share critical commonalities rooted in their social historical circumstances and shared experiences with the modern world. He asserts that this commonality stems not from skin color or assumed traditional values. While those grappling with Appiah's ideas will admire his vast erudition and writing style, this book will likely provoke those who adhere to an inherent unity of Black or people of color. Conversely, it will embolden those who believe that identity, a characteristic feature of our global reality, including in Africa, is intricate, occasionally conflicting, and that this intricacy both fragments and enriches our lives.